I know I'm a bit late to the party, but who cares? The Battlefield 5 open beta is over, and for many people, myself included, it was the first playable glimpse of the upcoming shooter. There are rumors about a second beta to make up for the game's 1-month delay, but for the time being, there's nothing confirmed. So today I'd like to talk about some of the things I liked about the beta and some of the things I didn't. We start off with something positive, and that's the level design. While the two maps were often criticized for being too small, I actually really liked both of them. Especially the Rotterdam map is worth mentioning in my opinion, as it nicely combined open areas like the harbor part with small backyards, indoor fighting around that fancy White House, as well as something that was almost completely absent from Battlefield 1, verticality. The train station and its close-by buildings add something like a second level to the map without feeling forced or out of place. I really like the way you can navigate around that part. It feels natural but still interesting. By adding that second layer to the map, it makes it feel much bigger and also more believable. It really feels like fighting in the streets of an European city, so I hope we'll see more of that in the final game. I did not like the weapon customization system, however, or upgrade system, or whatever that skill tree thing was called. It was confusing, counterintuitive and just weird. For example, to change the muzzle on your gun, you'd go to your loadout, select the weapon and then go to the customize menu where you find options to change the barrel, receiver, magazine and so on, but as it turned out, this is completely cosmetic. To have the actual effect of a certain attachment, like a choke for example, you have to leave the game, go to your company, select the weapon you want to adjust and then go to upgrades where you find the skill tree of sorts that lets you change your weapon's behavior. Including such things as adding a bipod, a choke for tighter pellet spread, reduced vertical or horizontal recoil and so on. Things that you'd expect to be affected by different attachments in the customization menu. But no, those are just for looks. Yeah, you can add a muzzle, change the stock, receiver or magazine, but it has absolutely no effect on the handling. This is now all done in this upgrade skill tree that you cannot access while in game to make things even worse. And you also cannot revert an upgrade. Let's say you added a choke to your shotgun for tighter pellet spread. Then that's it, it now has a choke, even if it's not visible. You cannot remove it anymore or swap for something else either. You have to purchase a duplicate of that weapon in the armory, then go back to your company, select the weapon duplicate you just purchased and add a different upgrade to that one. In other words, you're basically manually recreating that not too well received multiple variants of the same gun system from Battlefield 1. And I don't fully understand why they did that instead of just going back to the Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, Hardline or even Warfighter system of weapon attachments. I can only imagine that the development of Battlefield 5 was branched off of Battlefield 1 while it was still in development, which is not unusual, but at a point when the weapon attachment system from Battlefield 4 was already removed in favor of the multiple variant system. Who knows what really happened, but as it is right now, it's a confusing mess, plain and simple. Not only for players new to the series, but for returning ones as well. And I really hope there's a way for DICE to still somehow merge the old attachment system into the current Battlefield 5 development branch, or at least come up with something to make the current system more accessible. But back to something that I liked, and that's the new movement and mobility options you have, like crouch sprinting, laying on your back, grabbing ledges, being able to jump through windows without breaking them first. It gives you a new kind of freedom that I didn't even know I was missing. And that little animation your character does when trying to reach something that's too high? Cute. Also, the new enter and exit animations on vehicles are nice. They should add a jumping out of running car animation though, with a little roll at the end. That would be perfect. All in all, I like that pretty much every action has a corresponding animation now. Some feel a little bit forced, like holding up an ammo or medical pouch every time you find one, but it's a nice touch nonetheless. A negative thing I'd like to address though, planes feel completely useless. And I don't mean that they are too strong or too weak, I mean in context of the game. The aerial combat felt very disconnected from the rest of the battle on the ground. Sure, once in a while there's a little strafing run or a pilot gets lucky by dropping a bomb on a populated spot, but for the most part I didn't even notice there are planes above. They kinda did their thing up there, skirmishing around with other planes, but it was never really affecting the overall outcome of a match. In Battlefield 4 the commander had the option to designate an enemy as a high value target. Maybe if in Battlefield 5 the squad leader could do the same, or maybe designate a tank or objective for aerial attack, giving the pilots an incentive to participate in the battle below, it would help to include planes and pilots more into the outcome of a match. Because right now they didn't feel like being able to help the team much. And the last thing I wanted to talk about are fortifications. I'm still a bit undecided whether I like them or not. While they did prove useful here and there, oftentimes I felt a bit too restricted in terms of where and what I could build. Sometimes you could barricade the window, other times you couldn't. You might be able to lay sandbags on one level of a house, but not the next one. It felt a bit inconsistent and not very intuitive where and when you could build stuff, which led me to sometimes not even bother about it, because more often than not I'd switch to my building tool just to discover that I can't build here, even though in other, similar spots on the map it was possible. And I know that fortification spots are visible on the minimap, but wasn't that something that DICE wanted to get rid of, looking at the minimap all the time instead of the game? Anyway, overall I do welcome the addition of fortifications. I just hope it doesn't become a tacked on gimmick on later maps once the game is out for a while. And that's about it. My main issue and biggest gripe with the beta was the annoying weapon upgrade system. It really was a big stain on an otherwise very enjoyable experience. It still took me a while to get used to some of the other core changes like the removal of spotting or less ammunition, but those were not negatives in my opinion and actually only added to the experience. But what are your thoughts about the beta? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let's hear about it in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching, enjoy gaming and see you all next time.
Nuts!